Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Mark Messimer here with MLS Listings, and welcome everyone to MLS Listings Live. And I just want to thank you for joining us today. And seeing Russell out there, I'm watching the sort of the chat panel. Russell, good to hear from you down there in the Monterey area. Welcome to the show, as they say. So MLS Listings Live, it's a way for us at MLS Listings to keep information flowing to you during, the unusual situation we're in right now, and certainly in the shelter-in-place environment. We've got so much data coming at us, and you've got data coming at you. We wanted to find a sort of a fun way, an interesting way, a very consistent way of allowing you to keep up on what's going on, not only with the MLS, but what's going on in the industry as well. Today, I'm going to invite in Dave Wetzel. And so, Dave, if we could get you on camera here, that'd be great. And while Dave's coming in, definitely we're ready to go. There's Dave. Dave, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mark.
How are you? Hey, while you're setting up your slides there, because you've got a great presentation for everyone, I want to go through and talk to you about Monday, March 16th.
Monday, March 16th.
Remember March 16th?
You want to know what I had for lunch that day?
Well, basically, yeah, because you were in a board meeting that day where that board made the decision to take that interim title off your CEO and make you the CEO of MLS Listings. And the next day, you did what?
Well, it wasn't a board meeting. It was an exec committee meeting there, but nonetheless, it was that Monday, so Carl came to me and said, "Hey, we want to make you the CEO. Sign here." And so I signed that, and then literally the very next thing I did was I sent an email out to all staff saying, "Hey, shelter in place has started. I need you to pick up all your things that you're going to need for a while and go home. And I'll see you in a couple of months." Great.
Dave, do me a favor. Go ahead and if you'd start your slide deck for us and get that shared up, because we got a lot of things to talk to our people about out there. And so I'll let you take that spot. There we go. So, Dave, one of the terms you've been using, with the organization is this thing called operational velocity. And so what is that? And then what was the key effect on our subscribers when we established operational velocity?
Well, operational velocity is simply the ability for a company to get stuff done and get stuff done quickly. And I think, Mark, you had kind of had a really good way of describing it the other day when we were talking, and that is everybody's familiar now with how these Zoom meetings work, where you can see like a whole bunch of people in all the different squares. Right. And you can imagine if we were a dance company working remote, and everybody was in their individual little square at home. Right. And what would it mean for them to work remote? Well, it would mean for them as a dancer that you have a camera at home and you've got some space at home and you dance in front of the camera. But when you put them all together on all the different squares on the Zoom thing, are they dancing in sync?
Right.
And how do you do that? So from a company perspective, we've got 53 employees and they can't be at home working in their own little square on the Zoom thing. They all need to be collaborating together. It takes a village to run an MLS.
It certainly does.
And an operational velocity means that, hey, we hit the ground running and we were collaborative, and we're doing more now in shelter in place than we were ever before. So it's just amazing.
But you started building this virtual village well before Tuesday the 17th.
Yeah, we did. So, I'm kind of one of those analytical people by nature. And so I was watching this as it was unfolding in China, and then it moved over to Europe. And I was thinking, oh gosh, this is
It's coming
it's just
our
a
way.
matter of time.
Right.
So we started looking at all the teams and said, you know, how are we going to have that operational velocity and not be the dance troupe in the individual boxes all dancing
Right.
separately and not in sync. And so how do we do that? And we realized, okay, well, first off, not everybody in the company had laptops that
Right.
we could work remote with. So we needed to quickly, you know, acquire laptops, get the right software loaded. And then we had, you know, that just gives you the camera at home for the dancer, right?
Correct.
So now how do we get them all dancing in sync? So what we did the week before was we started some practice sessions where we said to a few different groups and subsets of groups, go home tomorrow morning, work from home, come in the afternoon, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what went well, what can we fine tune, how do we make this work better? So we did some practice the week before. And then when we got the notice on the 16th, I think it was the 16th, when it got
Right.
the notice on that day that said, you know, starting by the end of the day, we have to be remote. We hit the ground running and we haven't stopped running yet.
Exactly. And we're all singing, you know, we're all dancing the same music at the same rhythm. We even put in new tools at the very last minute to help all the dancers dance together better with, you know, Microsoft Teams, and we all became Zoom experts. But I think what's really, you know, it was seamless. I believe it was seamless to the subscriber. It's still the same phone number. It's still the same chat window. It's still the same people on the other end of the phone that they've been talking to for years. We just, on Monday, we were in Sunnyvale, and on Tuesday, we were in 5 counties.
Yeah, everybody at home and all calls routing into your headsets at home, everybody checking the different aliases. And so no matter whether you were trying to get a hold of customer support or billing or compliance, you just got a hold of them. You reached them
Right.
the same way you always did before. And it was just kind of seamless, as you put it. You know, it's just, you know, it just happened. And it didn't just happen.
Right.
I'd like to say it just happened. It didn't just happen. There was some planning behind that and practice behind that to make it happen. I was on a call at the very first week when this happened with a number of different MLSs, and there were some MLSs across the country that were not prepared for this. Right. They were out purchasing burner phones and trying to figure out, you know, getting cell phones to their customer support so their customer support could try to figure out how to take calls,
right?
Because they didn't have the ability to do that like we did. So
I think our team is. I think our team
we planned for it as we saw this unfolding, and as I said, we hit the ground running, and we haven't stopped running yet.
And during that first week of running, we had to make some pretty significant changes to how this MLS works, how our subscribers work with us. We actually loosened up some rules to make it easier. So I'd like to go through, you know, some of the things that your exec team and the board had to make immediate decisions on.
Yeah, I think the board did an excellent job in coming up with policies around days on market, open houses, broker tours, and so we were lucky that we already had a board meeting scheduled for that Wednesday, the week that shelter in place started. So we had all of them. It was a little rough because that was the first time we did a Zoom meeting with the board, and we didn't have a lot of time to practice that, but we got that going. And what the board decided was that it would be best to put a pause on DOM for active listings, that we would disable open houses and disable broker tours, and then go back through the database and find where listings already had open houses or broker tours in the future and remove those. The days on market, so by the end of the day, we had the open houses and the broker tours suspended and all that work done. It took a little bit longer to get the days on market there. It's pretty tricky dealing with days on market if you don't make any changes. And so we, the term that I like to use is there was no data harmed in the pause of DOM. Everything that's in the listing is still in the listing. The original list dates and all the dates are still all the authentic dates that are there. And what we did was we changed some of the calculations. And so DOM was paused as of the 17th of March. And it will restart again once the board says, hey, let's go restart that after the shelter in place lifts. And so if you had a listing, say, of X number of days before the 17th, when this thing starts again, it'll be X plus 1 days, and it'll start again from there. Now, one thing that we should probably try to remember is that that's days on market, Mark, and what people see for days on market is what you see in the professional tools.
Right. In our tool.
In our tools, in Matrix and Paragon and those things. Now, consumers will look at what they can see on Zillow or Redfin. They don't use days on market. Most people don't realize that what they're seeing on those sites is not days on market. It's actually days on Zillow or days on Redfin. You'll see it right there in the text. You'll say days on Zillow, days on Redfin, and it's not days on market. What they simply do is they look at when the list date is, they look at today and they go, oh, this was, this many days, and they display the days on their site. Sometimes they don't even agree between them. So, but they don't use days on market, so they'll continue to use days on site. But all the professional tools and all the things that we use as professionals will have the days on market, and it'll be paused for those active listings.
Got it. And even some different MLSs don't have the same, we don't calculate our days on market the same way eBay does.
No. In fact, as you know, you can reset the days on market for different ways, and in fact, if you put a listing into withdrawn, that also has always paused DOM, and some other MLSs don't do that. Some don't have a withdrawn; they have a held status, and their hold status didn't always pause the days on market. Right. So every MLS has got a different algorithm for how to do days on market. And that's why Zillow and Redfin, they don't do days on market, because they'd have to have, 400 some different ways to do it.
It's different ways to do it. Absolutely. Dave, I think one of the things our board did and you did is you made the decision to pause days on market for the betterment, for the benefit of our subscribers. And you took a little heat for it out there in the MLS world, right? But that's the ground.
That's true. On a national level, there were a number of different things that different publications that came out and said you should never muck with the days on market. It's changing the data. It's harming the listing data. And we said, no, it's not. The way that our engineers did it was it's not actually harming the data. No, it didn't change any of the data. It's changing the calculation. But it was a good way of doing it, because if you had a seller who's now wondering, should I keep my house on the market through this because it's unlikely to sell, or it's going to be more difficult to sell, especially if they're living in it. And at the end of whenever shelter in place does end, they're going to have all these days on market as compared to one that waited and then went live at that point in time. Now all of a sudden they're at a disadvantage. And so what we decided to do was to take that fear of DOM out of the equation, let the agent have that conversation with the seller and do the right thing for the seller in their circumstance without the DOM fear factoring into that. And some people moved them into withdrawn, and that was better for them. And some people left them active, and that was better for them.
But we gave them the opportunity to keep that inventory moving in the MLS. The buyers are still looking. We're going to talk about that in a second, of how the buyers are still engaged out there with MLS listings and with our subscribers. But the buyers are absolutely, we kept the information going, and the data is still safe. And I think you mentioned it briefly and almost went over it too fast, which is we were able to do it because we have our own team that knows how to do it. We're not subject to the will of a vendor someplace way off in the woods. Our people are right there in Sunnyvale getting the job done.
That's true. And so we could brainstorm on that and figure out how to do it and get it done. And a lot of the vendors, they could have done what we did, but because they have so many different calculations, because they have lots of different MLSs that they vend services to, it would have been a nightmare for them to do that. So very difficult from a vendor with hundreds of MLS customers. But if you have your own software developers, there's a lot you can do.
Right. Dave, while we're here talking, there's a lot of questions that are backing up in the Q&A area, and we want to encourage those questions to keep on coming. Those of you, we got lots of folks online with us right now. Keep those questions coming in, and at the end, Dave, we're going to go back through those questions and answer some of them directly for people.
Okay, good.
I want to move over into, we had to relax some rules. right? We had to free some things up in the new world of shelter in place. And so I want to, give those listing agents and the buying agents as well, what's going on out there? How did we help out? And how are we going to move it backwards, right? At some point, we got to unwind all this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the key thing here too is to remember that, we didn't just dream up of this stuff in a vacuum and then just spring it on people. We actually were out talking to a lot of offices, a lot of presentations, a lot of discussions, and one by one, people start saying, "Well, can you do this? Can you do that? What about this? Does this make sense still?" And we listened and we responded. And these are some of the rules here that we did relax. And we said, we're in a slightly different world now in shelter in place than we were before. So do all the rules still make sense? We felt from feedback from others that there were some that we should relax. And so things like URLs in the public remarks. URLs are not allowed in the public remarks, but this is a great time to use that public remarks field to put something that has a URL in it if the URL is focused on a virtual tour or an event.
Right.
There are some URLs we still don't want to see in there, right? You don't want to have a URL that points back to your agent or broker
right
website.
Back to your website again. Right?
Yeah, that's not good. So we don't want those. But things that are really helping consumers, clients go and look at virtual tours or events. Let's make use of that public remarks. Let's relax that rule.
Good.
Photos. There's a rule that says that if in one day after you list the listing, you need to have photos. And we're saying, right now it might be hard to do that. Just recently, there was in some of the counties, photographers and videographers are now essential services,
right.
But they're still hard to get into the house. There's still some strict rules about how you do that. And so we're saying, if you have a new listing, if it's going to take longer to get that photo in, take what you need. You'll still get a notice because that's all run through the software in the background, and it's going to automatically send you that courtesy notice, but you're not in violation.
Okay. And then, the curable, what's a curable violation?
A curable violation, well, it's simple. It's something that the agent can change and bring it back into compliance. So what we're saying is, if you've got something that's not compliant, but you can change it back to being compliant, then we'll let you know, and you should change that. And then, fines are going to be relaxed. Or
like a phone number in the public remarks. You can go back in and take that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Marketing and withdrawn status still going to be okay. But we are going to, if you really did bad, we're going to come a call and still with.
Yeah, we can't just say all the rules are out the window.
Okay.
There's some important ones. And so we'll still have those.
Okay.
And then after this ends, we'll have to unwind this, right, and get it back. And so we'll come out with some guidelines as how we're going to do that. We have not published that yet, but you can imagine that, shelter in place, we get a notice tonight that it's end, and tomorrow, boom, now you get all these fines. That wouldn't be fair, would it?
That's not good. Yeah.
So what we'll need to do is we'll need to be able to come out and say, we need this amount of time to roll back on these things.
Okay.
And we'll publish that and let people know.
And certainly, if you've got any questions, folks, on, compliance issues or listing issues, or how do I do something, all those same connection points you all had on March 16th, those are all there, and they're all working. Use your standard phone number, or talk to the person you've always liked to talk to, Andy Simmons out there, and and Eric Contreras. Talk to the people you always like to talk to. They're waiting for your calls.
Absolutely.
Hey, let's move over to my world, training.
Yeah, your world changed there, didn't it, Mark?
We had a few things we had to make different right away.
Yeah, I mean, you went from having a lot of face-to-face training sessions, and all of a sudden we said, "Hey, Mark, you can't do that anymore. Shelter in place, you can't do face-to-face training anymore." So, what you did was I think the training team really knocked it out of the park here and put together live webinars that kind of replaced the face-to-face trainings. But there's a lot more live webinars, Mark, aren't there, than there used to be face-to-face trainings?
There's a massive amount. We went out and connected directly with all of our primary vendors and brought their webinars into our calendar as well.
Yeah.
So we quadruple packed the calendar there.
Yeah, and then that stuff on the right-hand side of the screen is showing that the things are already recorded. So the
Correct.
webinars are live. So
Right.
you need to see where it is on the calendar, what time of day, and then watch it live. But those ones on the right are already recorded, and so you can watch those any time of day. Find the ones you like and just play the recording and watch those. And you know, I've been in so many meetings with with agents, and they're just so busy all the time. There's classes that they always wanted to take that they never had time to take.
Right.
This is the perfect time to go back, find those classes and take them. And there's one example I like to use in this, and that is that, at the end of last year, we added a couple of new member benefit, free benefit products as part of the service. One was Remind, one was Cloud MLX and Streams. There's a couple of them, right? But Remind's a great example because it's a pretty powerful tool.
Yeah, it's got some complexity to it.
Yeah, anytime it's powerful, it's got complexity. Sometimes it's not always intuitively obvious how you get the most out of it. This is a great time to go back and find those Remind classes and take them or watch them and try to get the most out of that tool. It's a perfect time to do that.
Exactly. We've got classes going live literally every day of the week. And then it's 9:30 at night. You found a quiet moment in your SIP world. Go grab a Remind class that's already recorded and sitting up on our YouTube, MLS Listings YouTube channel. And I think the key thing there is when you get there, go to YouTube, go to MLS Listings, there's the channel, hit that subscribe button. Because as we are producing things, as we're posting stuff, you don't have to keep looking for YouTube. YouTube's going to find you and deliver you and let you know what's going on out there. So the training team is very busy. They're doing a heck of a job. I got to tell you, real proud of those guys, every one of them. I want to move over into our public website because we talked just briefly about the consumer being out there. The consumer is still involved in real estate here in our 5 counties, and our numbers are really showing it right now.
Yeah, it's interesting that in a normal time, we would be seeing, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.6 million views of listings on our public website, which is great. In fact, consumers can then click on a button and ask a question, and it goes directly to the listing agent, and those are leads, and we did 9,500 of those in 2019. And so when this happened, we said, there goes the consumer website. They're all
kaboom.
Yeah, but no. So now what we're doing is we're pulling the numbers every few days and looking at the last 7 days of traffic, and it's been going up. Right. And so this is a number, 295,000 views of listings, 295 views of 295,000 views of listings in the last 7 days. Right. And this number's been going up, about 10,000 views of listings a week. So it started around 250, then went to 260, and now we're at 295. That's a lot of views.
Right.
And so, it kind of hits home the fact that we're in shelter in place. Guess what? We're not the only ones sheltering in place. The consumers and the clients are sheltering in place. And what are they doing? They're not on a Zoom call with us. They're on the web looking at listings.
Exactly.
And so while the page count is slightly down, that's still a heck of a lot of views.
Right. Well, and if we go back to a previous slide, we had a little bullet point there, but it's incredibly important. We have 4 different ways for a listing agent to put in 4 different types of virtual tours into their listing. And our engineers, let's go back to that in-house engineering team, was able to take what we call our .com side, our public side, and add virtual tour enhancements right in that tool. Listing agents, you can still show your home.
Yeah, you can see it down here. I don't know if you see my mouse moving.
Sure do.
But you can see down here where we highlight the virtual tours. And so what you mentioned with the 4 different links or sets of links for virtual tours. So there's a common way of representing things in an MLS database. It's called a Reso Standard. And the Reso Real Estate Standards Organization has a standard for virtual tours, and it's one set, one branded, one unbranded. So one set. And that's what all the MLSs have. And last year, we actually did this at the end of 2019 because we had an agent come to us and they said, I used the old regular go-to virtual tour where they stitch the photos together and they're moving, and that's a link.
Right.
And then he was entering into the world of using the Matterport type of virtual tours, and he also was using drone footage.
Right.
And one set of links. How is he going to do that?
I'm going to do it.
And so we listened to him and we said, wow, that's really interesting. Things have evolved. And so we put in, at the end of last year, went from one set of links to 4 sets of links. We sent out information to all the people who received the data.
Right.
As soon as the shelter in place hit, I got calls from Zillow. I got calls from Redfin, a few others, saying, hey, Dave, we saw that notice that you had out at the end of last year about the 4 different virtual tour links, but we didn't really think that they were important, so we thought that people are just going to use one, so we ignored it. But oh my gosh, we want to incorporate that, Dave. Can you give us that? Right. Can you send us that again?
You feed them more, yeah.
And so now you start to see, we did this in 2019, and now it's being used a lot. Right. So if anyone out there listening to this is not using virtual tours, you want to look at those. If you're using one virtual tour mechanism, look at the others, because you can have up to 4 in there, and some people are doing that.
Yep, and that benefits both the listing agent, help get that house shown, and it helps that buying agent because I can send this to my client, and we can still be having discussions about this possible home, looking at the disclosures, doing the due diligence. While we're sitting in place, right? And then when things open back up again, let's go buy a house.
I've had a number of agents who told me that what they're doing is that due diligence is moving up in the workflow, where before they would have started off with a consumer not working with an agent yet, driving around the neighborhood on the weekend, looking at open houses, trying to get a feel for what they like or don't like before they commit themselves to an agent. Then eventually getting connected with an agent, looking at more, finding the ones that you narrow it down, and then start looking at disclosure documents and doing that due diligence, right? Now what they're doing is they can't go around and look at the open houses. They can look at the virtual tours, but this is driving some of those consumers to the agents earlier in that sales funnel because they need information. They're looking at the virtual tours, which is great, but they're curious. What are the disclosure things that are available for this? I see it's a townhouse. Maybe there's some HOA information I should know about. Right. And so they'll reach out to these agents and ask to help them with that due diligence that they would have done a little further down the road. Now they're doing it early on. So it's the fact that those listings are active really helps in the consumer and able to see that and start that whole ball rolling.
Exactly. Hey, let's move on. The NorCal MLS Alliance data share, that's a big long sentence or a big long title there. I want to talk data share. How, I'm here in Silicon Valley and I can currently see the listings that are over on the East Bay, but I haven't been able to get to my San Francisco clients or to my Marin County clients. You guys are getting ready to make a huge change there that is really going to benefit all of our subscribers and actually 60,000 agents spread throughout Northern California.
Absolutely. And we did a little bit of an announcement of this at the end of February, and then shelter in place hit. So we haven't really been able to talk about it much. But what we did was we are expanding that data share in Northern California. As you mentioned, Mark, we have the data share for, Bay East, Contra Costa, and Bridge in the East Bay. Right. But the Rapatoni ones, which is San Francisco, Barry's in the North Bay, and MetroList in the Valley, we don't have a data share with. And so we got together with them and figured out, how do we do this, and started moving forward on that. If you look at just the 7 MLSs in Northern California, it makes up listings that come from 60,000 agents. And it covers 22 different counties. You can see on the map there all the different areas it hits. It's huge. And so we started this work at the beginning of the year. We announced it in February.
Right.
And the work is still going on. And we've been having a number of meetings with those other MLSs, with Rapatoni, and our engineers, and just making sure that the work is still going. We're sheltering in place, but that work is still taking place. It's still moving forward.
Okay.
We'll still need to figure out when we can go live with this. We don't have an exact date for that. We'll go live with San Francisco and Barry's in the North Bay, and then at one point, and then at a later point, bring in MetroList, in the Central Valley. But that'll be later this year. And when we do that, all of those listings will be in your home system. So for what that means for us, it'll be in Matrix. You don't have to go to other places. You won't have to click on that SSO link or that link that takes you into Rapatoni and try to do a search over there, which is a different system, right?
A different system. No, your people are going to love this, especially from the training side. It's all that data in a place you already know where the print button is. Right?
Yeah,
you have to go search around for where is it on this application. It's all the same data. It's all that good data, all in the right place that you've been working in for a long time. So that's
and we just announced it right before, just weeks before the shelter in place, and we just wanted to mention that, hey, this is still going on, and we didn't kill this because of shelter in place.
Right, still moving forward. Hey, easier login these days. I got to use my Google account. I don't know how many passwords I've got, and I'm told by my security group I'm not supposed to write them down. I'm supposed to keep them all right up here.
I see that. I see that yellow stickum there on your keyboard, Mark.
Yeah, right here, right?
Yes.
Anyway, hey, our engineering team once again stepping in, making it easier to get logged in and stay logged in.
Yeah, so you want to know the backstory on this? There's a story here. So you remember the days not that long ago when the system would log you off if there was no activity? What was it, like 15, 20 minutes?
Oh, yeah. No, that was...
And how many people told us how frustrated they were when they would take a call, someone would come in and talk to them, and then you get back to the system and it logged them off.
Right.
And so we made that change last year. We changed that to an 8-hour timeout, and people were pretty excited about that. That was a really good progressive move, but we didn't stop there.
That was the first step.
That was the first step in this multi-step plan here. And so that was the first step. And then this step here was the next step. And that is to say, okay, well, how about making it even easier? Before we said, okay, we're not going to log you off after 8 hours, but you still may be logging off. How about we make it easier to log back in, even though we give you longer time before we log you off?
Right.
This is going to say, okay, well, if you want to log in with your Facebook or Gmail credentials, you can do that. And if you want to stay using your DRE, your license number, fine, do that too. It's either way. But there's a lot of people that like to log in with Facebook or Google. You don't need to remember those other passwords. You just click on that. And if you're already logged onto your computer or your phone with Facebook or Gmail, then it just happens. So it's even easier.
Okay.
Now, this week so we didn't stop there either, Mark.
Step 3.
It keeps going. It keeps going. So now, boom, you see that picture show up on the bottom there? That's showing up this week. So if anybody who's logging in this week into the system, you'll probably see something in the upper right or upper left-hand corner of the screen that says, "Hey, we know who you are. Hey, Dave, welcome back." When I log in, it'll show me my license number. If I have a photo in the system, it'll display my photo. If you that's the photo too, by the way, that shows up on the IDX website. So if you go to MLSListings.com and you have a listing, that's the photo that's going to be there next to your listing. So you want to take a look at that, and so. Pretty cool.
Make sure you got a photo with us, right? This is one of those things you learn on day one at the MLS of get a photo on, because you'll be surprised how many places we push it on your behalf.
Yeah.
So
now we do have some more changes coming up around the whole, logging in. And I know I did a flyby here on this. Mark, I think it might make sense is if you do a video like what we're doing, maybe with Tom, and you can go into more details around this area.
Yeah, we've been knocking on his office door lately, because Tom Reso, who is our director, I believe, of product management, he's got a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pipe here. It's in the queue, it's being worked on, and it's just all designed about making it easier for our subscriber to get in and get to work and get data. and get things out to their clients. There's a real huge focus on that right now.
I think you should queue up another video just for that.
So, absolutely. Hey, let's move over to Oculus. Now, Oculus is a wholly owned subsidiary of MLSListings.com. Many of you have seen me out there with Michelle Ronco, my traveling road buddy, doing the Oculus tour. But once again, we may have gone into shelter in place, but the machine kept machining. And this is one of the things that was asked for and immediately responded to, which was looking at data quarter over quarter, looking at data, year over year, didn't matter when you need to know what happened yesterday.
Yeah, we talked about those 295,000 views of listings in 7 days. Some of those generated phone calls to agents. So a consumer looking at the website, looking at listings, pick up the phone, call an agent. Hey, Mark, what's going on with the market right now? Should I be looking at buying now? Should I be looking at selling now? What do you think, Mark?
Right.
What's happening? And if you pulled up the end of the month stats,
right.
I'm sorry, I think the end of the month stats right now are out the window to
Correct.
a certain degree, right? Because shelter in place kind of came partway through the month in March. Yes, we do have end of March stats, and
right.
some of those numbers may be perfectly valid for you, but you can't just look at them as they are and still talk about them.
Right.
So those agents that we have out there taking those phone calls, they are the area experts, and there's a lot of things that they do to be the area expert. One of those things is keeping their finger on the pulse of what's happening in their local market.
Correct.
And so now, one of the things that we got feedback on was, the whole market trends, the numbers, what's happening with the numbers.
Right.
And should we have said, I don't know, Mark, wait till the end of April. We'll give you the numbers at the end of April.
That would
no.
be
How would you know? And so what I'm showing on the screen on the left here is just a high-level picture. And what we started doing is we're doing daily numbers, daily, not monthly, not quarterly,
right.
daily. Why is that important? What you see this dotted line going up here where SIP, that's where we started shelter in place. You can see the first 2 weeks of March where the typical
everything was going
patterns.
Great. We were on a growth pattern.
And if you had a phone call come in and ask you about the market at that point, you could always go back to these trends, these known trends, and you could talk about that intelligently. You could be that area expert. But shelter in place happened. And then everything is different. So now what are the trends? Well, the trends are kind of forming as, week by week. And so what we're doing is we're making these numbers available daily. How do you find them? You go to the Pro dashboard and see I put a red box up here. It says Oculus Daily Market Stats.
Got it.
And if you click on that, it's going to take you to the Oculus page. And you see here in the middle, it's got this Oculus Daily, and this is an old screenshot here from the end of March. But then if you scroll down on this page, then it looks like this, and you see, hey, here's that one screen that I was showing you on the previous one. There's actually a whole bunch of different graphs on here, and you can look at these. You can download them. See, I put a red square here around downloading them and use them. You can look at them every day if you want to, or whatever frequency you want. There's no charge. There's no only 3 of these. No. Every day, go and look at them.
Yes, send them to your clients, right? Send that PDF off to your client.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you get tired of looking at them every day, here's a box down here where you put your email and we'll send it to you. So you don't even have to go click on the buttons to look at it. We'll send it to you. Because, and why? Because the numbers have become more important than they ever were before. We saw that new trends are forming, right after this shelter in place happened.
Right.
And that area expert's going to need to know what those are so they can talk about that. Once they lift shelter in place, well, what does that mean? Well, we've already heard the governor talk the other day about how after shelter in place ends, it's not going to be exactly the same as normal because it's going to be a while before there's a vaccine and all of that stuff. And so there'll be some changes to the way you can do things. It'll be better, but it won't be exactly as before. So I think you're still going to need to see these daily numbers for a little while. as we exit shelter in place to see what those trends change to until we get to the, back to the normal trends again.
Right.
And so we'll continue to make these daily stats available, and they'll be there for people to look at, because we believe that you need these to continue to be that area expert.
Okay. And I do want to send out a little shout out to our engineering team and our product management team, who literally get up early in the morning to crunch these numbers from the day before so that our subscribers have the number from the previous evening.
I guess that might be one thing worth pointing out here, Mark, is that so these numbers are for all 5 counties together. Right. And I'm always asked at these, can you provide area number X? Can you provide county Y? Can you provide zip code this? To Mark's earlier point, we're doing this by hand right now. So all of the algorithms and everything that we're set up to do is to do it on a monthly and quarterly basis. And this is not that.
Right.
But we thought this was so important. We have people jumping on this in the morning, doing this by hand. It takes a small village to do this as well. It's not just one person that's doing this, but there's several people that go and do this. They pull the numbers, they compare them to the old numbers, they throw it into a spreadsheet, they then create the graphs, they hand it off to someone to create the PDF, which gets put there, and they get it on the website. So you can see there's a little factory there to make that happen.
Exactly.
And that assembly line, if you will, to make that happen. And we're doing that every morning.
Wow. One of our other late night workers, before we move on, last night it was Dave Scalora, who I got an early morning 4:50 something email from, because he had just finished editing the Oculus monthly reports. So we filmed those yesterday. Dave got them edited, this morning, and got them over to our communications department for a quick review. We're going to have those up within the next 24 hours. And that's Michelle Ronco doing her normal month-to-month report for everybody to keep everyone involved. So thanks to that team as well. They were getting the job done, as they say. I want to move over real quick to, we've got some questions to answer, but your last slide, I think, is those contact numbers. And I think it's just, before we move into the Q&A, important to, emphasize, we're here, we're taking calls. We've been very busy, but your calls and phone call, emails, it's business as usual from 5 separate counties.
It is. And it's important for us to hear the feedback, hear the comments and the questions people have, because that's how we develop these different things that we have. So, those cool daily graphs, they started off with a handful of graphs, and then people said, well, what about this status? What about that status? And so we started adding things. What about relaxing this rule? What about relaxing that rule? Oh, that makes sense. Okay, let's do that too. So a lot of the things that we're doing is us listening and responding. And what you see on the screen right now is, this is how you can get a hold of us. And these are all the same ways that you've always been able to. Those are the phone numbers. If you want to get a hold of compliance, billing, or customer support, those are the email aliases that have always been there. And then that last one is chat. We've always had chat.
Right.
Chat had, some activity before shelter in place, but now it's up. There's a lot more people that are using chat these days.
We're more chattier. Is that a word? Or
it could be. It could be.
It could be a word after SIP is done with. Yeah, chat response is way up right now. So I want to move over into some of the questions that are coming in. The team's been sending them to my phone here. Sherry's asking, can a virtual tour in the public remarks be a branded virtual tour?
We'd prefer we'd prefer that they're not branded, because we're trying to keep those as cooperative as possible. Remember, that is going to show up on other people's IDX websites, and so it's not, it's not real cool if somebody else's website, a listing pops up with your brand, your brokerage all over it. So we're asking those to be the non-branded ones, if you can, please.
And this is that cooperation, right? The cooperation of the membership. Let's be good to each other, especially right now.
Yeah.
Q is asking for a clarification of marketing in withdrawn status is being relaxed. Because it used to be if you were in withdrawn status and you were marketing open houses,
that was not good. That would be a compliance problem before, right? Because if you were in withdrawn, then you weren't active, so you shouldn't have been marketing it. So that was a compliance violation before. What we have is we have a number of different sellers have different reasons for where they want to be from a status perspective. Some of them have said, let's leave it active. We don't have to show it. Leave it active so it shows up on people's websites. Right. Others have said, I'm not comfortable with that. I prefer it to be withdrawn. But we're saying at this time during shelter in place, go ahead and still market it. Right. We understand that times are different, and we understand that you moved it into withdrawn because the seller really wanted it in withdrawn for these reasons. So, but you're planning on bringing it back to active at some point. Go ahead and keep it marketing during this time.
Keep that water boiling a little bit. Keep at least keep it simmering, as they say. Hey, here's a great question on showing houses. Why do you allow agents to show houses when there's a shelter in place?
A great question.
Yeah, great question.
Great question. So we're not making the rules around that, nor are we the sheriff of shelter in place. What we're doing is we're following the county guidelines, and the county guidelines have rules that say that it is possible to show houses, vacant houses, right. And there's some very strict rules around what should be done. There's actually forms that need to be filled out. And so check with your associations. They've all got, the different rules and regulations around what the counties are allowing to do for showings. And it's mostly around the vacant homes. Okay. So again, we're not trying to be the sheriff and say, this is what you should or shouldn't do in shelter in place. What we're doing is saying the counties are deciding that, and they've right. said that those are okay.
That's right. Nora's asking, and I think this is a training question. I love it. She's looking for an on-demand training course on virtual tour enhancements. And Nora, we literally are working on a video right now. Dave Scalora is getting it edited because we recently made some changes very quickly to how you receive information from Matrix, which then highlights all those virtual tour links that are available to you, which ones are vacant. We've done some great work with Silvar as an association to help them with some reports, and we've moved that out to everyone else. So Nora, stay tuned for that, and we'll certainly put it up on the announcements section of the Pro homepage when you log in. For those that don't use Gmail and use work emails, how is social login easier, right? Now, we certainly have the Facebook option.
Yeah, you have the Facebook option, but no, we don't have an option for their other work emails.
Right.
It's Gmail or Facebook at this point. We are looking at some other things that are a little further out later in the year, and that might help, but not things that are coming out, in the near term. Okay. Right now Facebook, Gmail, or your DRE. You've always been doing it.
We've been using it all along. Absolutely. No reason to change. Is the paused DOM not being passed to the syndication partners? Is there a concern there? And maybe Dave, that comes back to most of those syndication partners don't use our DOM calculation. They use their own.
They have the numbers. They have the calculation available to them if they decide to use it. But literally they're working with 400 plus MLSs. Zillow's got data coming from every MLS across the U.S. and they're all different in terms of what the calculations are. Some of them are pretty straightforward. Some of them are complex. We do provide all the data, and we do provide the calculation and how to do that. They chose to go do days on site because days on site is just so simple for them.
Right. So I'm waiting for any more to come through. Dave, I actually want to ask you a couple of questions. You're the brand new CEO. You came to us from Cisco, right? And the Cisco machine out there with this incredible technology background. But the question out there is, so who is this Dave guy? Right? Where'd he come from? And stuff. So my team put together just a small group of questions to find out who is Dave. Okay. So our first question is,
put me on the spot here.
Yeah, put a little bit on the spot here. What's your favorite meal? If you could go out right now and have any meal you want, what would that be?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna. Yeah. Okay. So my personality is that I'll take your question and I'll turn it around and I'll twist it. So, Mark, I'm going to take that question as to mean or to ask, what am I missing right now?
Right.
I've been in shelter in place for a month.
Right.
What am I missing? You know what I'm missing? I'm missing a nice juicy burger from one of the gourmet. There's several gourmet burger places nearby, and I'm missing that. That's right now.
Okay. Full lettuce, pickles, onions, the whole thing.
Fries and a cold beer.
Cold beer. Nice touch. Now, if you could pick anybody in history to have that burger with, who would you like to sit down with and have dinner?
Okay, so I'm not sure who that would be, but I know what the conversation would be, and I know what I want to get out of that conversation. So, and maybe the audience knows who I should go reach out to for dinner. But what I want to do is I'd like to, in this question, is to have that meal with people that can tell me about different times in history that we've gone through that are similar but different, similar but different. So in 2008, what was different in 2008 versus now? And together through dinner, what we would talk about is, the people that lived through that, what did they see different back then? What's going to impact things differently now? Not just 2008, but there's a number of things that have gone back through time that have an impact on the market, the real estate market, but they've all impacted it slightly different. And I think this one is slightly different as well. There's lives and livelihoods at stake. And what are the different factors that are similar? What are different? And so that, as a CEO of the MLS, I'd love to have that conversation with someone and then understand what are those different performance indicators to look for, to the knobs and levers to turn. And that's the conversation I would have. I just don't know who that would be yet, Mark.
Okay. Hey, one of our viewers just said, hey, we've had enough of those emails and phone numbers over there. Why don't we just look at Mark and Dave? So Dave, if you could turn off your sharing there while I line up the next to the last question. You're a car guy, it turns out. These are things that the company found out about you. So I'm going to mix it up a little bit. What was your first car you had?
My first car. Oh gosh, I had a first car that I bought was a Volkswagen Rabbit.
Nice.
And then I crashed it, and then I ended up after that I bought a Datsun 280Z. And that's kind of where I got into sports cars after that. Never always had a sports car after that.
Sports side of things. And now you're extra super sporty, right? Because what's your favorite car that's sitting out in your garage?
My favorite car would be, I have an older model Porsche that I like to take out on the weekends and drive around. That's my favorite car. Funny story though. That car, I had to take it out this weekend and just start it up just to make sure the battery still works. It's been sitting there for a month. But the funny story is I also have a little red Jaguar, and I was just talking to my neighbor, and he said, "Nice Ferrari you have there." I was like,
whoa.
Ferrari? No, that's a little red Jaguar. It's 2-seater. Anyways, I took that. I promoted my car to a Ferrari. I guess I can tell you now, according to my neighbor, I have a Ferrari.
Okay. Well, let me
just don't tell the insurance company.
Yeah, I'll borrow that, when we come off of SAP. Hey, one last question. The most fulfilling aspect of working at MLS Listings and with the MLS Listing staff, what do you think it is?
Oh, without a doubt, the impact that we have. So you mentioned early on that I came from Cisco systems before coming to MLS Listings, and I did a lot of really cool things at Cisco over the years. But at Cisco's a huge company with a humongous amount of revenue that they generate, and so you're no matter how much revenue and all the things I did there, I was always a rounding error in the bigger part of the equation. And here at MLS Listings, we have such an impact, not just me, but the entire team. The entire
Right.
team is got such an impact on what we're doing. We've seen it over shelter in place, where we've listened to people and responded, and we got all this great feedback about how people like the rules that we've relaxed, and the pausing of DOM, and the daily numbers have been
Right.
huge hit. And so it's just the impact that we have at MLS Listings that the whole team has. We talked about it taking a village to run an MLS. Well, that village makes an impact, and
Right.
that's what gets me up in the morning and makes me want to come into work and
Go
see
do
that
it.
impact.
Get up in the morning and walk down the hall to the office, as they say in SIP land. And then all of our villagers that that are feeding us information of what they need. That's so important to making this thing run in unusual times.
It is, because if we want to have even more impact, then we need to be listening and hearing what's important, and then seeing what we can do to make changes, because we've got that agile team that can go in and make changes.
Right.
We need to take advantage of that by listening to what people need and then providing it.
Okay.
And that's what we're all about.
Hey, real quick, I want to go back with this is a great question, because it is so it's coming at us real quick, and it's about clear cooperation, that new rule that's coming down on us from NAR regarding exclusive listings and such. Are we still on for the target date of May 1st?
We are.
Okay.
We are. We had a board meeting yesterday, and the board said, yes, we're going forward with clear cooperation, and it'll start on May 1st. We'll go into an education period at the beginning,
Right.
where we'll tell people that that they're in violation of this. We'll educate people about it, and then we'll tell people when they're in violation of it. But the fines may not start for a month or so, until we get that whole education pushed out there properly.
Okay.
But yes, starting May 1st, clear cooperation is in effect.
Got it. And I know that Robert Bustamante is going to come on MLS Listings Live within the next couple weeks, and we're going to sit him in your chair, and we're going to find out what he likes for dinner and who he wants to have it with as well. So we're going to get some time with Robert. Yeah,
and that's good, because we could spend a whole series, just talking about clear cooperation, and we couldn't do it justice right here at the end. But yes, you need to. If you're watching this now, look for the clear cooperation one that's coming out soon. You'll want to see that. This is going to be important. Somebody asked about the MLS data with NorCal, the launch date. That's still to be decided, right? It is. It is. So, we're waiting on Rapatoni to make some changes. And, on the Rapatoni side, just to kind of give you a little bit more visibility into it, they needed to make changes to the actual user interface that the agents use to make this happen. We're able to make all these changes behind the scenes. And so for us, it's not an impact to agents, but for them it is. And so they need to get those changes done, and then they need to test the heck out of them. We're helping them with that. We're finding some things and giving them feedback on that. And then they need to plan a rollout and an education period on their own too. So that's going to take them a little bit of time to do that. And that's one of the reasons why we don't have an exact date that says on such and such date this is going to happen, because we're waiting to hear back from San Francisco and Barry's as to when they'll have the software ready, when they'll have the training in place, the communications in place, and then be ready to roll it out. Okay. Okay. And that's, we'll keep that as one of our agenda points on MLS Listings Live to keep everybody informed as we do the show. I think that's important. One last question. Paul's asking about getting a copy of your slides, but we're actually recording this right now, and we're going to put it up on our YouTube channel within the next 24 hours, I think. I'm pretty sure. The guys are pretty excited about getting that out there and watching it. Once again, go to YouTube,
type in MLS Listings, bring up our channel, hit that subscribe button, because every time we do one of these, we're going to get it up on the channel and YouTube will let you know it's ready to go.
Oh yeah, because they're going to want to see the one that you do with Michelle. They're going to want to see the one that we talked about, Tom,
yeah.
Robert's compliance one. Yeah. And coming up and just searching for them to see if there's a new one isn't always efficient. So yeah, hit subscribe. That way you'll know when these things are hitting the streets.
Great. Dave Wetzel, thank you for being part of our brand new kickoff show. I'm really happy you were able to join us and give us some of the details of what's going on right now, what took place in the last 5 weeks, and what's coming ahead. And you'll come back and see us once again as we start to unwind here, right?
Absolutely. I think we'll need to continue this and make sure everybody knows how we're unwinding.
Right. I want to send out a big thanks to my team, the people you don't see who really did all the work to get this done. Miranda was our director. John was our communications guy. Dave's handling all the video capture and editing. And Peter keeps us all together because he handles the show logistics for us. Thanks, guys, for putting together a great first show.
That's the other Dave doing the
That's
video.
the other Dave, yeah. Actually, this Dave is going to go do the editing, yeah. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us. If we didn't get your questions answered, feel free to check in with any one of our call-in points or our email points. We'll get those questions over to Dave, and he can answer them for you via email or something like that. Thanks, everybody.
Sounds good.
Great time.
Thanks for joining us.